welcome back to another episode of Chasin Tails, episode 24. We got a couple things to talk about this past weekend, the Summer Nationals in Hampton, Virginia. And in a little bit, we're going to have a special guest, Kip Brown from the West Coast, joining us to talk a little bit about what's going on the West Coast, the T-boat class that he's really helped put on this past year or two, and just give us more insight on what's going on out there.
Definitely going to be a good episode. And I would bet if Kyle Bipes was on this early, he'd say, "You got to pep that up a little bit, man. You sound like you're half asleep. Work too hard today."
Yeah, it was a long day.
Too much wiring robots and stuff today.
Yeah, no 480 sparks to give me that pep in my step.
Yeah. I'd have to say my quick two thoughts on the Summer Nationals before we bring Kip in, and we'll get you guys maybe a couple thoughts on it, is, man, the 5 liters. They only had, 4, 5 of them, but holy crap, the competition was wild. Unfortunately, didn't get to see a lot without a live stream, but the little bit your mom did, it was like there was some leapfrogging going on. There was a lot of emotions left, a lot of emotions checked at the door, and that'd probably be the key point. Then obviously Skiff Max, with all his engine troubles he had the past couple weekends, like they just put one together, borrowed one from Warren Brown, and goes out there and smokes the competition. That's awesome.
Fast,
so fast. What about you, Bob?
No, I was just watching the live stream from the cell phone footage. Racing seemed good. People were out there mixing it up, getting a little intense, like you said, in the 5 liter 350 class. I didn't get to watch any of the skiffs, but to hear that Max went out and won, that's pretty awesome. So congratulations to Max. I'm sure since borrowing Warren Brown's engine and going out there and winning, he's not going to let his uncle Jimmy touch his engine anymore.
So in the qualifier, he was out in like lane 5 or something like that. Started quite a ways back. Jimmy and Billy went at it for like 2 laps, and Max was just hunting the whole time.
Really?
And I think he ended up, because Billy eventually pulled away from Jimmy a little bit, and he went around Billy finally, like backstretch lap 5, I think.
Really?
Nice.
That was the qualifier?
Yeah. The final was even crazier, dude. I think it was second, third lap. Billy, Jimmy, right next to each other, perfectly lane in between them, and Max from like 4 lengths back, just
nice.
Right in between them, split them going into the turn.
Oh my God.
Cojones, man.
I was I ride with Tommy Thompson one time, and it was at Port Deposit, Maryland. And Tommy's a really, really good skiff driver, but he hasn't raced skiffs for a number of years. He'd get in one once in a while. Well, Mr. Greenlaw took a bad hop, so he asked Tommy to drive for him, and so I rode with him. And we're searching for a lane, and I'm looking. I'm like, there is no lane. What is he doing? And we're behind. All the boats are already parked, and we're just behind them searching. And I'm like, all right, we're just going to go on the outside. All of a sudden, he just steps on it, and I'm like, where are we going? He lined himself up perfect with a trough that came to a crown like this, put the nose of the boat on it, stomped on it. We launched up and landed between 2 boats. I'm like, holy crap. Don't do that again.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but years.
Yeah, but if there's one person that I want to do that with, that's Tommy Thompson. That dude knows what he's doing in his skiff. So, and in a hydro, but riding with him, it was pretty cool for him to do that. But skiffs, it's always fun fighting for lanes, but yeah, that was crazy. But really, Congratulations to Max. That is awesome.
Yeah, that makes 2 of them Eastern Divisional champs with Sam driving, I believe, and then national champs with Max driving. That's pretty cool for a brother-sister duo.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. So awesome. She got to talk crap for a little bit, and then he's like, all right, it's my turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. How about you, the 2.5 mod Summer National champion, Kyle? What do you think about the weekend?
Yeah, it was fun. The obviously the final wasn't as fun, but the qualifier was fun. He that was like the first time I really done anything fighting for lanes. Put a nice leapfrog on Woody. and then we were there at, like, both right next to each other at the start, but boat was faster this weekend for sure, and was able to use the inside lane, pull up there, and pull away. Fortunately, I didn't have anybody to race against in the final, so it was a like sundown, green white checkered type deal. But it's cool to get a title. I mean, obviously not the way you want to win them, but we'll take it. And yeah, it was a fun weekend. It's the first time I've ever been able to race at Hampton, so it's a fun course.
Yeah.
That
Oh
bridge,
yeah.
I didn't really get to experience the way the wind was going. It was going the opposite direction for the bridge to really have its effect, but it's cool driving. It's kind of like Valleyfield in a way, having all those people
Yeah,
up there.
definitely. Yeah, back in its prime. I mean, that bridge used to be lined with people. It was pretty dang cool
I
back
had a
when I
bunch of people
started
there
in
on
06.
Saturday. It was a good turnout.
That's good.
It
That's
was
good.
popping pretty good.
Nice. That's definitely a cool place to race.
Andrew set a world record reset.
Yeah,
World record.
I don't know if that's the first record ever set there. Or there's been very few. It's not that fast of water, being the brackish water. So maybe Terry Browning in that Y boat set one years ago, but that's all I can think of.
I know they were talking. Someone was talking about a while back, like trying to do. It was some company you could get in. You put up some money, and it would be like a lot of money you would win if you set a record. Blah blah blah. Because to try to get people to come at Hampton, because they're like, well, the likelihood of setting a record at Hampton is slim to none. Because it's usually super hot there, but obviously they changed their date and it's worked out for them a little bit. Well, maybe it hasn't, but it's cooler there, right? It's not 110 degrees like normal.
How about you, Austin?
It was a fun weekend. It definitely sucks not being able to race both days, but I think I've said it before on here and said it in my kind of post-weekend Facebook post that Hampton was always one of my favorite courses when I was riding in the skiff, but I never didn't get to drive it in the hydro last year, even though that was kind of the one race I set aside between me and Kyle that I wanted to do. I wanted to see what it was like in a hydro, and it definitely didn't disappoint. Big turns, big straightaways should definitely have us ready for Caesars Creek next weekend. That's for sure.
Yeah, it seems like so you go from all these races, at least here on the East Coast, we're running a lot of tight 1 mile courses, and now you're going to end the year with a bunch of 1.25 mile real fast, big courses. Even the 1 mile, the one day in Lakeland's even a big course. So it's kind of wild to end the year on that note. You get thinking backwards, like, dang, we're really fast. And then you go back to the tight ones and you're like, dang, no, we really weren't.
Hopefully not.
Yo. So what do you think? Should we bring Kip on?
Yeah,
let's bring him on.
Again, folks, he doesn't know he's coming in, so if he's in his underwear, I'm sorry.
Yes, you did.
I thought Brandon was doing it.
Oh, I thought you had it.
Hey, what's up, Kip?
What's going on, Kip?
That's why you only do it from the waist up, right?
Exactly. You never see us stand up.
How you doing, bud?
Well, Brandon's standing. I'm doing
You
good.
ain't kidding.
Doing good. Thanks for having me on, you guys. First,
good.
I'd like to say congrats to the Hayes boys on your championship over the weekend. Brandon,
Thank you.
congratulations on all the GP dominance this year. You've been a sight to behold. And Bobby, you can screw up Facebook like nobody I've ever seen. So
That's the most accurate thing I've ever heard
At
in my
least
life.
I can do something.
Oh yeah.
So, you've been behind this whole 1.5 stock movement out west, and we wanted to have you on and get your thoughts behind it and talk about it, and let everyone know how's it going and how are the kids enjoying it.
Well, it's going great. We started this is season 3 for the West Coast T-boats, and we had none, and we pilfered everything we could from the East Coast and pretty much ruined the class back there. Sorry about that. And
Sorry.
But we've got 10 of them out here now, and we've had 8 the last couple races. It's been every race this year in Region 10 has been the biggest class. and except Sport C. Sport C's had a huge resurgence out here. It's a small OPC class, but as far as inboards are concerned, been the biggest class and super competitive. And the kids are driving great. Beginning of the year, there were some issues with, Katie had a fire. We had a couple bumper boats and stuff like that. But other than Katie tipping over at Brewster, which was kind of the perfect storm deal, it's been drama free, and the kids are getting along. And like I said, big boat count. I mean, we're close to having eliminations, and it's just the coolest thing ever. I'm so proud of it.
That is pretty awesome. I mean, if it's been the biggest class out there, most likely it's been bigger than most of the classes at the races out here too. So that's pretty cool. I mean, you're getting kids out in the water. They're going out and enjoying themselves. Any of them come from outboards or J stocks? Have they moved up from
several?
Okay.
We've got, so you guys are aware of the Inboard Racing Commission boat. That's one that Katie started in on year one. And last year the Brackett family ran it, and then they bought Nick Bonancini's 2.5. The Brackets actually came from RC, and they've got kind of ancillary family and unlimiteds and stuff like that. But that's really worked out awesome for them. That's exactly what we wanted with that IRC boat, was to bring families in, have them run, get their feet wet, and then have them buy a boat and move on. It's worked. So I'm stoked about that. We've got outboard kids running. We've got kids of old racers and referees and stuff like that. I mean, it's all across the board. So and every one of them is 20 years or younger. So that's the coolest part for me, is having a true entry level class out here, and the kids are doing great. You're seeing what Carson Kelly's been able to do this year with his Liticoat boat, with Strong Racing and Porco's Pals and all those guys backing him up. I saw he had a really good weekend there in Hampton, and I'm sure they're on their way back now to go run at Manson this weekend. So it's a tight points race for the region and nationally, and I'm just happy that we've got our hands in it.
So you said it was kids. Now, do they? I mean, not kids. They're young adults too. Kids and young adults. How's their relationship off the course with each other? Do they hang out? Do they talk, or is it like some rivalries going, or what?
Oh, there's a couple rivalries which we can expect. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. I'll be honest with you. I got sick of outboards early out here because it's so frickin' cutthroat. And one thing about the inboards, at least around here, we help each other. And so, when the parents and the crew and stuff like that are helping each other, then the kids are kind of learning through osmosis that they need to be nice, or else they're going to taste the back of my hand.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
It's definitely exciting. I've been wanting to have you on here for a long time, because it is very exciting on how much growth just over the couple years that class has taken off, and you've had your hand in it. And it's to get young kids in the sport. Some might drop out in a couple years, but some might continue to race bigger and better classes. And that's the whole point of 1.5 stock. So it is for them to eventually keep moving up, and hopefully it keeps happening and keeps growing.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited to see this first batch of good young drivers move into 2.5, move into 1 liter mod, and that sort of thing. And I mean, who knows? We might have a West Coast Grant Liticoat who's going to be probably in a GP in the next 18 months or so, the way that kid's moving up. So, but I'm just stoked to see this experiment work. I think T-Boat is a lot like a couple of the other classes where the power plant is a question mark right now. The Toyotas are aging out or have aged out. The Ford is working now, which is great. But there's a finite amount of them, and we're rapidly running out of them. And so the cool thing is that the Brackett family has been working on a Toyota Yaris engine this last year and been running it experimental with varying levels of success. But I think it's a 1NZ FE, if I remember correctly. 1.5 fuel injected. They're a dime a dozen. They've been having problems with it lately because it's got a pinned drive snout on the crank, and it only has about a 1/4 inch of purchase on the balancer, which you then build a drive snout for a coupler, and so that has reared its head as a potential problem. But they're working through it, and when that thing does run, it's good and competitive in the Jones Hall. And so I'm cautiously optimistic that might be the wave of the future. If not that, then we're going to have to figure something else out. As is 2.5 stock, as is several of these classes. We need to be diligent in working towards power plants that are readily available and economical.
Yeah.
Sure. Definitely. I think as you say, like with the T-boat class growing, it's the next step is huge. And that's the part that I feel like as a whole, as a group, APBH or how everyone needs to work together. How do we get that back down? The cost of the power plant's probably the easiest to do. Obviously, cost of boats. I mean, you know what it takes to build a boat. That cost really can't vary much. Could you go to different materials, stuff like that? Sure. But the power plants definitely have gotten too expensive. And I think what would be cool from what you were just saying about T-boat is if the West Coast could bring back a for sale boat, say the 2.5 stocks, we come up with a good power plant that's cheaper and you could throw it in there, someone run it as a for sale boat. I guarantee you'd get more of those step ups into that if you had it there and it's ready to go. And that seemed to work was 15 years ago when they did it out here with the Y boats.
That was like 20 years ago. Well,
Hey,
it started like
it was like 25 years ago.
25 years ago.
Right.
It was 2000 or 2001 when Jim Wilson bought the boat, and then he bought the boat, and then he went to Portsmouth and set a record, I believe. So, that was a long time ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Brandon, I hadn't really considered that to actually have the for sale boat, but it makes great sense. What you're saying, and I think especially once we can figure out whatever the next generation of power plant is going to be, then that can be done. The great thing about T-boats, and you guys know this already, but not everybody watching does, there's a great eliminator. Maybe that's not the right term, but you can take an old 2.5 and you can make a good T-boat out of it. You can take a good 2.5 and make a T-boat out of it. You can take a Y boat and make a 2.5 out of it. You can use a boat with a 48-inch tunnel. You can use a boat with a 54-inch tunnel. And if you get a good start in a decent lane, you're going to be hard to get around.
Exactly.
You look at the boat that we brought out here that Courtney was running. It's like a 1972 Jones. You can kick the thing off the trailer, and it's still competitive. It was competitive back there. It's competitive here. Doug Shelton's kids, 3 kids are running that boat, and it's just the coolest thing. So there's been some learning curve for some of the new families coming in, and I bring like a dozen propellers to the races and just start throwing them at people and see what sticks. And, we just try to all work together and try to make the Toyotas run with the Fords and run with the Yaris. And, the great thing is, like I said, we've been having 7 or 8 boats start the weekend, and we've still got 6 running at the end of the weekend. And that's pretty freaking cool.
That's really good. Yeah. That's awesome.
I think what's cool listening to that is you guys kind of put away the side of like, obviously there's a couple running for high points and they run for the race wins, but for the general class, it's more of let's just make the class better. Let's make sure this all works so people keep coming in, coming out and growing the thing. I think that's really cool to put aside all the other stuff and just work together to keep that class strong.
Yeah, it's rewarding, and the coolest thing is seeing the kids, come back and high-fiving each other and hugging their parents and that sort of thing. I mean, it's what I would have wanted if I started racing when I was little.
Yeah.
So it just makes me so proud to see Katie do as well as she does, and I'm proud of Haley. She does awesome, but all of these kids are showing flashes of brilliance, and if they keep at it, then they're the next generation. And we don't have anything else in inboard that's feeding this thing. So I'm real excited about where we're headed with this.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So how's we haven't really, we're not trying to neglect the West Coast at all. It's just hard to.
We just struggle to get info.
Yeah, so we struggle to get info. So, if you, as much as you can remember, like fill us in how the season's been going with different people throughout the year in different classes, and you too, because you're driving at 350.
Yeah. So, we can start there. Justin Weymouth bought Steve Huff's boat, which was Wally Johnston's boat originally, and so we've been campaigning 2 Jones hydroplanes for the season. We worked all last winter on Jeff's boat, which is the E3, which had the really unfortunate big asshole put it in at Hampton. It's been fun. It's been competitive. Jeff could drive a hunk of plywood and be hard to beat in 350 or 5 liter or whatever you want to call it. So when he's got a good fast boat, which he set a world record in this year, he's nearly impossible to beat. We've been running solidly in second. A lot of the times, every once in a while, I'll eke out a heat win for whatever reason. And the points race has been tight all year with us, both in the region and nationally. 2.5 stock, our numbers are down a bit, but the competition has been incredibly fierce between Monkey's boat with Jay Michael driving and Kyle Davenport. Those guys have been battling all year long. They usually split heats over the weekend. They're parked at the entrance pin 2 days before the heat starts, and they're fighting like crazy. But they have, it's been good sportsmanship, and it's been really exciting, fun racing to watch. And so a lot of it comes down to lane, which it always does in 2.5, and it also. One of those boats is a little better on a small course. One of them's a little better on a big course, and we kind of have a grab bag of race courses out here. So that's been really cool. 2.5 mod. We've had a couple actual mods running out here. Gunnar O'Farrell started the year with an Esslinger engine. He promptly blew that thing up, which was the second major failure in short succession with that thing, unfortunately, because when it runs, it frickin' hauls ass. Marina and Marissa Bartels are running Weymouth's old boat, and they finally got all the bugs worked out of that program, and it's very competitive, very fast, and it's now consistent. So that's been cool to watch. Justin Burnett, I think, is still leading high points, and he's running an older 2.5 stock Henderson, but he's consistent. I mean, he starts and finishes every heat, and that's why the stocks usually win high points with the way our rules are. I mean, Hayes boys, you guys know what I'm talking about here. So, 2.5 mod is a killer class, for real mods. But it sure is hard to put 15 races together with a modified program unless you are independently wealthy, and I'm not sure these guys are. Y boats without Jim and Tim coming out, we haven't had a class. It's looking good for next year to where a couple of the boats are going to return to the circuit, and so I think even without Jim and Timmy's boats, I think that we're going to have a legal class, and when those guys do come out, we'll have a nice, good class, 6, 7 boats maybe. So that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to that because I missed having good 1 liter racing out here. National Mod, we haven't had anything, and SE at the beginning of the year was looking like it was going to kind of have a resurgence, and it's been hit and miss. It sucks for me because I'm a runabout guy. Not having SEs and SAs out here on a regular basis. About half the time we've had legal classes, but it's just been like scraping 3 boats together. So
do you still have yours?
I don't. Well, I mean, I have a K boat out there that I'm eventually going to put together, but that's a beezer. But I'm not going to race it. It's just going to be for, drink a couple beers and go fire the engine up and gas.
Looking cool.
Maybe take it to the river a time or two. But my Starfires are gone. My SE boats are sold to different people. I've been running for Gary Hansen, who has the Catch 22. That's that gold boat that I've been running for the last few years. Mm-hmm. And to be real honest, we kind of stunk up the show out here for a little while, so we decided to park it. And we were hoping that the class was going to kind of stand on its own 2 feet and some new blood, but it just hasn't really worked out that way, unfortunately. So I'm still hoping. I got my fingers crossed, but there's nothing showing that it's going to happen.
Now, am I wrong when when the SC class was brought in, it was supposed to be a very cheap engine? Did that engine kind of get out of hand with throwing this parts in it, and then get pretty expensive?
You could talk out of both sides of your mouth with that one, because yes, you can build an SE engine for $5,000 or $5,500, but they don't live. And so, you can build a cheap GP engine too, but it's not going to make it to the race course. So, granted, we don't have boost and we're not running methanol, and it's 9.5 to 1. And, you should be able to make a stock bottom end live with 450 thousandths of lift and 9.5 to 1 compression. I mean, and you turn them 6,500, they should live. But history shows us that pink rods don't make it. The stock crank doesn't make it. And, the window of being able to live through a little bit of detonation or something like that is very, very, it's minute. And so, at the end of the day, if you want to build one once and run it for a couple of years, which I've been able to do, it's going to cost you $10,000, to put an engine together, and that's carb to pan. So, when you've got to do a long block next time, it's not that big a deal. But it's hard to put one together.
Still cheaper than a Ford 2.5 stock.
It is, and you can buy cylinder heads and you can buy camshafts. So,
man, that must be nice.
Sounds like it's not a bad combination.
You could probably open up a magazine or go to a website and just order it off the shelf, right?
But it also isn't what it was. In fact, I've been talking with Greg Barker this week because he's trying to find some cylinder heads, and a lot of the guys go the route of going to a wrecking yard, but you got to buy 6 sets to get 2 heads that aren't cracked, if you're running Vortec heads. And so you can still buy Vortec heads, but you can't buy them bare, and you don't want to use the stuff that they come with. And they used to be $425, and now they're almost $700. And so it's supply chain stuff. And frankly, maybe we need to start looking at LS for that class too, because nobody's interested in building 23-degree small block cylinder heads anymore. Why would you? Because you've got you have an LS and an LT platform. Be? So
if you went to the LS now, what would the price point be on that?
Well, it really depends on how you go about it, but you could run like a 602 crate engine, and you can buy them all day long for $6,000.
Now, if you did the crate engine, now would you run into the same issue you are now? If you just started running it, would it only last like a weekend and possibly blow, or would you have to upgrade parts inside that to get it to
It
last?
depends on who you ask, Bobby. It's a good question. Because it works in an asphalt car doesn't mean that it's going to work in a boat. We all
No, not
know
at
that,
all.
and so
Yeah.
there's clearance issues and stuff that we need to look at. But without experimenting with it, it's really hard to say. I know that my uncle actually went with the CT 525 for his Yates, I think, and had them sprinkle some pixie dust on it to make the thing live. He was told that if you just take that engine, put it into your boat, it's not going to make it. So I've never played with them. In fact, I've got very little LS experience, but it's looking like I'm going to need to get on the bandwagon here about 20 years too late.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be. I mean, when HRL did the 350, they had the crate motors for a couple times, and they just kept seizing up valves, I believe.
Right.
So yeah, it could be something that it starts out at this, but you have that role to open up some guides, and if you could take it apart, open up some guides and little things here and there, and put it back together for $7,000, it'd be golden. You don't have to get too exotic with
Yeah, I
parts.
don't think the sealed engine is definitely the way to go. I know that we're looking at that with the Hondas, and we've looked at it with the Fords and stuff like that. But the problem that you have with that is that if you've got one person that's the go-to, then you've got downtime and shipping costs and have to wait in their queue and all those things. And so I like the idea of a sealed engine, but we need to be able to work on our stuff, because I mean,
Yeah.
just like Carson and J. Michael, they took an engine off the floor at Strong and threw it in, took it testing right before an event, had a blown head gasket or an apparent blown head gasket, and we can't work on them. And so it's like, do we
Right.
throw that away? Like it just doesn't make sense. And so the cool thing from what I've read and what I've seen about the Hondas and HRL, it looks like they're sealing them and staying sealed. It looks like they've been cost effective once you actually throw the money out to run them. But then what happens if you tip one over?
Well,
There's been a couple.
they've been a
Have
couple.
they?
Like ECUs have been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Matisse has been upside down 3 times, and the engine's just been pickled and went back in the
Oh,
boat.
that's cool.
Jacob this year
Jacob got
flipped
his back
in.
in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, he flipped in Valleyfield and bent some rods. He went in pretty wide open, but the guy took it apart, put it back together. Within 2 weeks, he was back out
That's
there.
cool. That's not so
But I
bad.
think it's that thing. I think it's a little tighter because they only have one supplier for the motors. Where I really like the idea that the modifieds are doing, where anyone can build it within specs, but you have to go and get a dynoed, and that's when your seal happens.
Right.
So as long as you have a source that you can have a dyno at, and they don't get too backed up, that could work. But also, that's I think where a long block becomes cost effective to have a spare long block compared to what, like, say, the 2300s are now. You could have a spare long back for $3 or $4 and you have both of them dynoed at the same time, so you have a sealed motor ready to roll.
100%. I agree with you.
Well, me and Brandon were talking about this earlier today, because HRL does have a good thing going on with this Honda, but that's a small area, right? It's in Canada. You have one guy putting them together, one guy dynoing them. So what we thought about is if we could bring in an APBA, we would have a few dyno guys spread out throughout the country, and we take one Honda, we send it, we get it from the HRL guy. He gets it in his spec of what he usually does. Then we send that sealed to each dyno, because dyno to dyno might be different. Even though in a real world they should all be the same, but they're not. So you send that same engine that it's say 180 at the dyno in Canada, and then you send it to here, they get their numbers. So every time on the East Coast, every time an engine goes there, you get it in spec to say it's on that dyno, it's 175. Or if you send it out west and that says 176, you try to get it close to 176, because you just use that as like a test engine to try to get your numbers correct.
I read that proposal that you sent me, and I like where your head's at with it. I'm not sure what the exchange rate is between the Canadian dyno and the U.S. dyno, but we'll have to figure that out.
It's going to be high.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 2/3 or what it is, but whatever it is, we'll have to figure that out. But I like where your head's at with that. I think that that's going to take a lot of convincing to a lot of people because, I mean, how many of us do we know that even utilize a dyno for anything? You know, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
we do because we understand the value of it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people go, oh, it's $750 for a day at the dyno, and I go, dude, you spend more than that on one race weekend, and you learn jack shit
Yep.
on that race weekend.
Exactly.
And so, you know, that to me, it's money in the bank, but you got to have that money to start with.
Yeah, and I think we actually talked about it, boys and I and Bob. We said that we should have an episode just with anyone from 2.5 Stock, and like anyone come on, give their opinion. We're gonna kind of air out what we think's going on. That way, I feel like sometimes it's hard, especially East Coast, West Coast, to try to get the right information out. And even if sending you that document, you might have some questions. It might be a couple weeks before you got back. Like, where if we just have an episode and everybody comes on, it's all here recorded. Everyone gets their opinions out, and there might be like things we've missed or things that can be worked on or things that can be improved upon, and this would be the way to do it, in my opinion.
No, I like where your head's at. I think that a way, and this would require some, you know, some homework and some actual work and some money, but I'd sure like to see a good running Ford taken apart, you know, put a Honda in it, you know, apples and apples. I saw that Grant's boat is now at Don Less's. That's exciting. I also saw that they're going to run the Ford in it, which we probably should. The thing's lickety split.
Yeah.
Fast.
But it'd be cool to see Eddie's Honda put in that hull and see what the difference is.
Well,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
you probably, I don't know if you remember, but the boat that Eddie has now
Mhm.
was Doug Martin's boat that John Shaw drove, and he was close to winning the championship a couple times.
Understood.
So it was a good boat with a Ford in it.
Yep.
Before they
And
put the
Eddie,
Honda in it.
and Eddie ran the Ford
And-
the year prior.
Yeah.
Is that the boat
Yeah,
I parked
'cause he
on
was-
top of, Bobby?
No, that was
the old one.
That was the old one. But yeah, that's
The new
right.
one had a no
Eddie
parking
did
sticker.
run the Ford and won the 2.5 championship before he went to F class and put a Honda in.
Yep, copy.
So it was a good boat with the Ford in it.
Yeah, it's just out here, especially, you know, the Honda is fairly controversial, probably like it was a year or two ago. You know, even back eastern Canada.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a fair amount that isn't known about it out here, and you know, when we do see, you know, somebody going out there and smoking everybody with a given program, then it's scary to want to adopt it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I realized that Scott and Grant put together that boat, and it was very fast and very competitive on, you know, different race courses with Eddie and that sort of thing. But they're also, you know, it's a little bit like looking at the 92, where they're just head and shoulders above the majority of the pack. And so
Yeah.
I'm a little bit curious how a Honda's going to run in one of those mid-pack boats. I mean, does it increase the chasm, or is a mid-pack boat still a mid-pack boat?
It makes them competitive in certain lanes
Yep.
and certain times. It still takes a driver.
Sure.
You know, not calling those guys that they're not driving. They're just not. They don't have the experience yet, I believe. So they're still trying to get the experience. But sometimes the mid-pack boats, if they hit their start and got a clean first turn, they would be right there up front. Now that was the S class. I'm not sure about the F class, but I was watching.
Tremblay was by the end of the year, especially. I don't think anybody was going to beat him in that final.
That thing was cooking, but
And
I think he was going to whoop Eddie.
I know.
And
there's
Tremblay was running fast in the F class at Beauharnois, was running faster than anyone there, and his boat is way heavier than the top 5 boats in the F class.
Copy.
So it does make them a
make
little
a
bit more
difference.
competitive. But like I said, you have to get a clean start and get through the first turn,
Understood.
just like any
Yeah,
boat,
Just
though.
like anywhere.
From from what we've seen, like watching it as a fan, and at first we were against it too. Obviously, the cost was crazy high in our opinion, but it is a great equalizer.
Mhm.
There's people in Fords. I mean, it's really hard. We're struggling with it this year, and my dad ran Fords back in the '80s. So if anybody should figure it out, it's that old man. But he's struggling. But it just takes that out of it, and now you can work on boat setup because you got the same engine as the guy next to you. And
Yeah.
I know right now it's hard, the transitionary period, but I think if we look 5 years down the road, or even to the next motor after this one, as long as we keep what they platform they started, where everything's pretty equal,
Mhm.
it just takes the worry out, takes motor builders from charging whatever they want, because that guy, man, he's winning. So I need a motor from that guy, and okay, yeah, 12 grand for this motor. It don't make no more than mine, but I thought it did.
Right. I
That kind of
I
thing.
like how the package is put together. Also, I kind of crawled around Grant Hearn's boat when we were at Decatur, and I was real impressed with how that thing is put together, and so it was cool. I'm kind of half looking at my phone, and I see Dan Canfush is all
He's blowing it
blowing
up.
it up. So just slow your roll. I'm just telling you what my
Yeah.
questions are.
Right, exactly.
One thing that they're talking about, though, that I know we kind of discussed and have Mr. Numbers over here working on is kind of lap times and stuff, and really breaking them down. Because the good thing with HRL is you do get the Honda and the Ford inside and outside, so you can really compare lap times and see truly how close they are, or in some cases how far they are. But it
Yeah.
can really narrow down if it's driver or really
Lanes or
lane, engine, what.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's been fun to watch this year. And by the way, I mean I've been tooting this horn at our races, but man, the freaking coverage that HRL has, the production and the
Yeah.
coverage that they have is just second to none. It leaves very little to the imagination. So
Brian Montgomery stepped that up a lot.
it is
Yeah,
it is
he's
so
been a
cool to
team.
be able to sit there be out there working in the shop and actually watch a boat race. It's just
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kudos
So
kudos to you guys.
one last thing I want to say about the Honda before we get off that subject. I would say from my years growing up watching other engines come into classes,
You ain't watched 1 and 2.5 stock in your lifetime.
I know, I know, because it's what 50,
50 years.
50 years. So like the 1 liter mods had the 3KC, and then you brought in the 2 strokes. Look how much faster those two strokes were. You had the 305, then the 350 come in. Look how much faster the 350s were. I would say this is the Honda and the Ford is the most equal that you could bring in an engine and it be competitive with the current engine. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people are skeptical, but I'm like, look at 1 liter mods, look at 350s. I'm like, and maybe T-boats. T-boats actually that's they're pretty close too, right? I mean, because you can
It
still
depends
have
on who you ask.
depends on
Yeah, exactly. Turn them up.
so, but yeah, so that's I think it's a good comparison. Good,
No, it's a good point, Bobby.
but
So what on that note, you're on the IRC, and obviously we're gonna have to argue this. Is there a big holdup because of course records? Like if that one of the things that people look at, that it'll come and shatter all the records.
Well, I mean, I think that a handful of people worry about records. I think that the vast majority of people are more worried about competition in general, and not bringing in a program that will force obsolescence. I think that's a word. Pretty sure that's a word.
sounds good.
It is. It is now.
It is today. And so, yes, there's going to be people that are always hunting records. There's going to be people that want to protect their records that they've had for however long. They're maybe holding up the class as far as that's concerned. We, the IRC, we APBA, we boat racers have a responsibility to try to, in my opinion, to try to get in this century. I listened to Bob Wilson for years, hammered EFI, 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 and he met a ton of resistance with wanting that. I don't know that we'll necessarily get more racers by incorporating EFI, but what we do by incorporating EFI is we kind of level the playing field a little bit. And we can buy automotive engines that were built within the last 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, that sort of thing. And so, obviously the other option is we buy a later model engine and we try to make a carburetor work on it, but that's silly. We have the technology to make all this stuff work, whether it's with the automotive ECUs or with a standalone ECU. And they're kind of expensive once, but not when somebody's going to go spend $1,000 on a carburetor.
Exactly.
So
I talked to a guy from out west. I don't like to drop any names because I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I talked to a guy out west a few weeks ago, and he said I told him how much I was talking about an EFI adapter you can put on a carburetor, and he's like, how much? And I said this. He's like, I have more than that in my carburetor. And this EFI thing was $1,100. And I'm like, you have more than $1,100 in your carburetor? I'm like, and then I started talking. Then I started asking around. I'm like, how much do you have in your carb? And people started telling me people are dropping over $1,000 in a Holly carburetor, and it blew my mind.
But you can't buy a base carburetor for less than $600 now. Right. I mean, they used the days of buying a new $250 carburetor and then sending it to a guy who's going to charge you a few $100 to, bless it. Those days are gone. And and in most of our classes, we can't run, even a carburetor that's been loved on, and so it's just expensive. And there's still just tin cans with a hole in them.
And the problem with these carburetors, it's not because you cannot find them. It's because there's less and less people to work them for you. So, and they know that. So that's why, just like some engine builders, I'm not calling out engine builders, but that's like why engine prices go up.
Yeah.
Because if your boat, you build an engine for a boat that's winning, people are going to come to you. You jack your price up. These carburetor guys are like, well, who else is going to do it? So
we had a guy
jacking their prices.
We had a guy in Southern California, John Avery, who was an absolute whiz with distributors and with carburetors. He was reasonable. He was old school. He had a little shop. He's Dave Rankin's main man. And we lost him a few years ago. And my God, getting somebody to work on your carburetor that's not going to take one of your arms with them is really, really difficult anymore.
Yeah.
I used a guy that does circle track stuff. When I built my first SE engine, so I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever. And many years later, I got in touch with him to do another one. And he's like, I'm not even interested. He goes, it's not, I can't charge you enough and it's not worth it to me. And I go, dude, this is what you do. And he goes, go call somebody else. I'm like, fuck. So
Paul Hewitt about read me the Riot Act one time when I was like, man, I don't know what I did to this carburetor, but it ain't working the way it was before. He's like, I got about 60 hours into that damn thing. I was like, gonna have to put another 60 because I screwed something up.
Yeah, we got that from Scott Myers.
Said, well, you guys did screw that one up.
Never touch the carburetor again.
Oh,
yeah, it wasn't good.
And then I touched it and stopped working.
Yeah, that's enough about that.
Yet to be able to take carburetor apart, put it back together, and have that thing work. I'm done touching it.
He's put it back together with the bowl upside down.
You should take pictures when you take things apart.
I'm pretty sure he's had pieces missing. Put it back together, and there's pieces still laying there.
That makes the accelerator pump work kind of funny.
Yeah, it does. Yep. Definitely ain't gonna flood when you take off.
Picture the linkage is like so it'll actually work. It's
hilarious.
A nightmare, man.
I mean, to his defense, he just learned last year what a 3/8 ratchet was. So I mean, at least he's trying to work on the carburetor himself.
You ever want to watch his schedule? Tell him to get a 3/8 socket on a 3/8 ratchet.
Oh. Don't even get him started on ignition time in advance and retarded. He's like, they call it that still? That's still allowed?
Dude,
It's very
that was
offensive.
a
Very
wild
offensive.
All right, so
We're
we got
getting
some
canceled.
we got some rapid fire questions for you. We do this to everyone that comes on.
Okay.
So it's just questions. I'm sure you've seen if you watched this thing before. It's just I ask you a question, you answer as fast as possible. All
Bobby
right,
reads slow.
I read real slow. Favorite class to race?
National Mod.
Beer or whiskey?
Whiskey.
Flat bottom or hydro?
Flat bottom.
Who's your biggest cheerleader?
Tiffany.
Favorite race?
Black Lake.
Chicken wings or steak?
Both. I eat wings first.
End with the good stuff. Honda or Ford? Just kidding. Just kidding.
Or Mazda.
Favorite size course?
I like 1.25 miles.
Okay. Which race course do you like the least?
In Unlimited, Coeur d'Alene, and it's tough. Lake Chelan in the wind.
In the wind. All right, and last one. It's the favorite boat you have drove.
Max out.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a wicked ride.
That's
And screw
one
Andrew
right there.
Tate.
Now
he
it just comes
he
up.
just beat my record that stood for like forever.
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Now the boat's got to come out of the museum and go take another
No,
shot
I don't
at
think
it.
so. I don't think so. Those guys have got it just absolutely dialed. That was actually so cool to see that at Decatur. You know, he came in and he's like, "Oh, sorry, man." I'm like, don't be sorry. That was the most wicked thing I've ever seen." So yeah, it's so impressive watching that thing run.
I will have to say, National Mod and driving that boat was the most incredible feeling ever. You're on rails and it's got your head pinned up against the side and you can't lift.
Yeah, it's badass. I mean, it's probably the closest thing to a sprint car that we've got in boat racing.
That is true, yeah.
Because I mean, you can be going 60 miles an hour and hammer it and the thing goes sideways. And that doesn't happen in any other class.
No, not even GP. So talk to us a little bit before we wrap this up with you. You also put on races. You're part of a race club. You're on the IRC. I believe you're the head of the tech committee now. Obviously, you have your daughters racing and all the T-boats stuff. What is the most important for you as your future goes in APBA inboard?
The most important thing for me is to make sure that my daughter has boat racing available to her. We can't let this thing die. I'm about used up, but I want Katie to be able to race, and I want Katie's. I hope someday she has a kid, and I want Katie's kid to be able to race. And so, you know, I mean, our numbers have steadily declined since the mid 90s, and we have a responsibility as, you know, people that aren't in wheelchairs yet to make sure that, you know, our kids and grandkids can enjoy this sport that we've grown up loving. You know, it's not what we do, it's who we are.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, they can't take it out of us, that's for sure.
I tried to quit once or twice. I tried to quit. I can't quit.
Yep.
I tried not to get into it, man.
Yeah, he tried not to.
I almost did.
Yeah, I mean, so that's why the T-boat thing on the West Coast has blown up into something that I could have only hoped for, and so I'm so excited about where this thing's going because it is still growing out here. I firmly believe that we'll have a dozen boats, you know, by the middle of next year, and I'm stoked about that. I hope it comes back on the East Coast, and that's where it needs to start because we don't have an inexpensive class other than T to get these young people involved and
Right.
to have them cut their teeth and give them something to do. It costs too much to run even 2.5 stock. It costs way too much to run 5-liter E350, and the other classes are all but dead. And so we got to work together. We got to make this thing work, and we the IRC and the tech committee and everybody else need to figure out a way to make some of these other classes more affordable.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know we as Chasin Tails are going to put some pressure on you guys in the coming months where we're going to help you.
I look forward to it.
Bobby, your mic is muted again. Stop rambling.
Does it every week?
I hate that little button. But you forgot to mention you are also on the bucket list racing team, correct?
Indeed, I was lucky enough to work with them the last few races of the year, and what a great group! I've been friends with Kelly Stockman for 30 years. We started out racing flat bottoms together, and the guy's so incredibly talented, and it's been really fun to get to know that whole group better and work with Dustin, who's really really a good guy, a good driver, and that boat is very very capable. So I'm looking forward to what the future holds for that.
Now, Dustin I asked him in rapid fire questions, who would win in an arm wrestling match, him or Taylor Evans? And he didn't answer. He just smiled.
That's hard to say. I mean, I think it would. They're more likely to have an oil wrestling match than arm wrestling. So
I don't want that image.
And it really depends on if it got out of the first round. If it was first round, then I would say Dustin, and then anything after that, I'd say probably Taylor.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. So that's cool. We really appreciate all your work with that T class out west. That's that's phenomenal. It is cool to try. We try to follow it. At least I do. Timmy Collins, I know he's been working with trying to get most of the live stream going at all the races. So I've been trying to watch them because they're our future, and they're going to be the ones coming up and kicking our old asses in a few years. So,
well, I'd be remiss to not say that if it weren't for Daryl and Vanessa Strong and Strong Racing, I mean, that was the shot in the arm to get the first batch of boats out here. I mean, Daryl just wrote a check and brought both of Paul Price's boats and Jimmy Stewart's boat and then Kevin Gunther's boat out here, and that's what really got the ball rolling on this, and it's blossomed from there. But as with so many of the things that we're doing out here, we owe great big thanks to Strong Racing and Daryl Strong.
That's cool.
Yeah, their
thanks,
love
Daryl.
for the sport as a whole, from unlimited all the way down, is just incredible to see.
Indeed.
That's really cool.
Guys, you got any closing thoughts before we let Kip go?
Nope, I'm all
No, man. I like I said when we saw in Decatur, it was great to get to see him in person. That might have been the first time we met, to be honest. But it's like they said, it's been fun watching the T class grow out there. I'm gonna continue watching it. I watch any boat racing that is available at any time, and it's fun seeing those kids grow, and look forward to maybe getting a race against some of them here in the next couple of years.
It'll be great. And
hope to see you down at the national meeting.
Yeah, look forward to that. Be in Reno this year, so everybody get your tickets and come to Reno. They're doing the 50th anniversary of the Hall of Champions, so that'll be really cool.
It's awesome.
Nice, that's awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing all your thoughts and everything going on out there. Maybe next time we'll get you on with Mike Monahan and Greg Isaac. We'll have a little more lively episode.
That'll be great. That'll be great. I can't wait.
We gotta have some of those in the off season.
Yeah, we're gonna have some funny ones in the off season.
Cool. I look forward to it. Thanks for all you guys are doing to help spread the word out there. Appreciate all the hard work that you guys are putting in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Thanks for coming
Appreciate
on.
it.
So is Bite Bipes coming on? Beep beep.
Oh no, dude.
No, he's next week after his big
okay.
I was
announcement
about
of
to say
stepping
it's
down.
9 o'clock. He's got to be about what 9 lattes deep.
Yeah,
Did I just say he's stepping down as Madison Regatta president?
man.
Realize he can't do the job.
So that's
Whoopsies.
I don't want to keep saying it, but I want to keep saying it. It is very cool what Kip, Daryl Strong are doing with that class out there. I mean, you got new blood coming in. You have generational racers coming in. It's just gonna keep racing alive out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
'cause, they got the bite now. They wanna keep going and hopefully getting a 2.5 or 1 liter mod or 350, and it's awesome.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was awesome to see him this weekend out in Hampton.
That's cool.
Two-
I mean, they traveled all the way from out west for the nationals, so that's what it's all about. Like I was saying last week, I was like, that's cool. They get to experience that. Like, this is what people in bigger classes do. They'll travel this far to go to a race or do what it takes, and it's definitely awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I mean, there's an age gap that you have in boat racing. I feel like even J stocks. I don't know much about outboards, so not going to get into that. But like kids, like Theo's going to start in go karts here in a couple weeks at 5. Can't start J stocks till he's 9. So we might lose him to the auto racing world. And same thing going up through the ranks. I mean, at 13, there's kids that can run formula cars going 160 mile an hour. So there's some of that. And I'm glad that the T-boats are bridging that gap, especially out west. I mean, obviously I started when I was 14 with T-boats and they never had them out there. So it's really cool to give them the shot with their next generation of their families and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to think, from 14 to 16, you go from, at the age of 14, hanging around your family quite a bit, right? Once you get 16, you get a car. Your friends have cars. You want to be gone, having fun with your friends. So that chance of your parents bringing you into the sport, or you getting in the sport, is slim after once you reach 16. I really think there's a big disconnect there, because you have, you'll have high school. They're in high school. They want to go party with their friends. They want to go do this. But at 14, you get them hooked. And then, once 16 runs around, they might, like, no, you guys go party. I'm going to go boat race this weekend, because they already got that bite at 14 years old, and they want to keep going. Exactly. So I think maybe T class should lower their age limit a little bit. I mean,
yeah, man, we should have asked them that. It's 13 now. I mean, there's the element of water too, obviously.
Is it 13 now?
And yeah, it's now 13. There's that element. That's what I didn't understand about J stocks. But like I said, like all these race series, there's a kid that was running like a 502, whatever the big dirt modified was. He won. He was 14. That thing was doing $160 around that dirt track. Like I don't think I could have went that fast at 14. But maybe these kids are built different.
Dude, I could.
Built different.
I just couldn't stop. Maybe that's why he's on dirt. It's just like, that's it. Yep.
Woodies are fast.
Yeah, they're pretty quick.
These are a little scary.
There was no story Saturday night with those, because he was really figuring Oogie and all them guys would get a little drunked up and they'd be trying to race, because he's never brought both of them to the races. So he figured there'd be a story to tell. And we were talking about that at the shop, that like, man, half the time at these races, the stories are more fun than the racing. And again, that's bringing back the pit parties and stuff. And like we did, hearing them stories are just awesome.
I wanted to try to get a scooter race going on Sunday when we had the wind delay. There was a bunch of cones setting out. Me, John Saw, Tommy were sitting there, all had our scooters. I was like, we could set this up.
Yeah, I don't think Tommy would have went that fast. He's a little more mellow.
Well, you guys are on the blacktop at Hampton now. Before it was a little sketchy, because there would be literally the holes this big in that big field that were just sinkholes.
So you weren't allowed to take the cement all the way down to the bridge. They made you go through that grass.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh.
Because they didn't want the scooters going through where they were doing the boats, which is how I understand.
Yeah.
I get it. But I mean, first time I had no idea. I'm not paying attention. I had 3 sets of radios in the thing.
Dad's scooter
headsets.
Oh my gosh.
So you found one of those sinkholes.
Oh hell yeah, I did.
Woody's were much better. I had to use it to go up to his radios for the final, and I was apex on those corners, and
nice. So we need to invest. All right,
So
we need to invest in the better ones.
there
But
you-
man, hold up, Bob. Before you go on another rant,
where's
there's
he
a
at?
story from Hampton that's probably the best one. We had that gem car, that red golf cart that
Yeah.
would do like 35, 40 mile an hour. And we hit one of them holes, and we had this jerry rig back seat bench type thing. And Big Greg Kreitzer was on the back, and that thing broke. And man, he went flying and tumbling down the thing. His pants done fell off.
oh god,
He didn't have his suspenders on.
He did not have them. Maybe that's the reason he wears suspenders now.
shot off.
Oh. Oh man. No, there's like under there's a shitload of tunnels like you can walk through.
Yeah.
Oh,
There
really?
because it's an army base.
Yeah.
And they have tunnels all through that whole base there. And have you ever walked through like where the moat is? Did you ever go through that little bridge and
I
go
kinda
up
saw
there?
it, yeah.
Yeah, you can walk through there, and it's like an old army base inside there.
Yeah.
It's cool because they still, last time I was there, which was years ago, they still have like active military on there. And one time we went and partied with some MPs and then went to another
Yeah,
MP's house and watched a UFC fight and everything.
They brought me back to the motorhome through one of them tunnels. I was not being carried. I was walking my own way.
Oh god.
Yeah, I was one time I was sitting there drinking underage, and next thing you know, I have a flashlight on me. It's an MP, and I'm like, "Oh man!" And he goes, "Are you drinking?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I can't wait to get off to have one." I was like, "Man, I thought I was busted."
Oh,
Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart says skiff guys used to have the golf cart races inside the moat on Saturday night, and they're crazy. I'll tell you what. I'm starting it now. I will go back to Hampton next year if we have the softball game again.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
get the softball game.
Hydro reserves flat bottoms. Let's do it. And back to the old school rules I always heard about with a drink at every base.
Yep.
Let's have some fun Saturday
Let's
night.
do it.
We got to get them working on it.
Yeah.
One thing I do got to say about Hampton, when they sent me out in that final, the mod final by myself,
Shit was fun.
dude. Austin's we put a different prop on because we were like, all right, we're by ourselves. Let's go push this thing a little bit. Not that stupid, but let's get some data. I get out there. It was just after the skiffs ran their final. It didn't look rough.
Wind was definitely picking up.
There's some wind. I could barely hit the gas. The thing was just all over the place. I was hitting every roller. Austin, I'm going like 65, and Austin's
Oh my gosh.
over the radio. He's like, dude, relax. I'm like,
I'm trying.
You guys want this to be a 10-minute ordeal? It's a 3-lap, 1-boat race. Let me get it over with.
Yep. I know that feeling. When I blew over the T-boat the first time, they were like, all right, you can go back out. I didn't have a wing. I don't think I might have had a lid. I'm not sure. But they sent me out right after the GNHs. I'm like, holy crap, these things put big holes in the water.
Yeah, dude. That was honestly, other than when I almost blew over in Valleyfield, I think that was the most scared I've ever been in a boat just because I was by myself. The best part is I had to focus so hard I wasn't paying attention, so I haven't swung wide on the last lap thinking there was going to be people on the bridge. It was empty.
They all left. They were like, we're done.
But dude, the sun was basically down at that point.
They saw the skiffs and they're like, we're out.
Oh,
Had to be the last ones.
Oh, yeah. I was so happy they didn't make me sit there forever though, because there was one boat getting towed in, and I'm like, all right, he's close enough. Just let me go.
Yeah,
I don't wanna
exactly.
sit here for 20 minutes. But yeah.
So this upcoming weekend we have Caesars Creek.
Yeah,
That's
and
2.5.
Eddie Canfouche will be there with the newly purchased F97.
Senseless 17.
Senseless
Yeah,
17.
500 now.
That's a lot of boats they've had.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't number our boats.
No.
I don't even want to know how many we've had.
Yeah,
You guys should go back and count at some point. Just for
Dad, somebody asked Dad a long time ago. Was like, can you put down like how many boats you driven or what boats you driven? He had like 2 full pages, like a legal pad, and he's like, "There's more. I know there's more." I'm like, Dad, that's like 50 some boats. When I first started driving, you told me only take a good ride because one bad ride will ruin your reputation. And you out here driving every boat like you damn boat whore. This ain't right.
Oh man.
I think I was up to like 35, 30 something. So he had to be fucking way more.
Yeah,
he had to be way more than that. So
Vipes wants to know who's driving this weekend in 2.5.
We're splitting. I don't know if we'll do mod. It kind of depends on who else is there, what's going on with that. But I'll do stock in one day. Austin will do it the other day. Or is he saying in general, like all boats?
And then Bob is...
maybe. Bob's driving the 9. Maybe. Is anything coming, Bobby?
Yeah, the 9's going.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I still gotta. I don't know. I gotta find my helmet, my driving suit, my shoes, my watch. I don't know where anything's at.
About a brain.
Do you have your underwear?
I don't wear that in the driving suit.
And Jimmy Stewart, back to the softball game, wants to know if you'll put a softball through Dallas's windshield like you did Courtney's.
Hey, yeah, you park that thing close enough to the baseball field, man. It's fair game.
Man, we fixed it with a JPR sticker until she tried to run me over at Ken Island next weekend and put my shoulder through it.
Well, it was that year at Ken Island. We were jacking up her car and trying to steal her tire.
Yeah. Poor Courtney always getting picked on.
Again.
She ran. She went to try to hit you with her car, and you just shattered the whole windshield.
I was on the hood, and I mean there was nowhere to go but through the windshield. She's vicious, man.
Oh man.
Yeah, Cedar Creek should be fun. I had a good time racing there last year. That was the fastest we went last year with the old boat. Hopefully we can go up our speed again this year. Finally got to triple digits. 2 years. We made it. But yeah, go see what we can do. See if we can improve this record on Bob. Should be pretty easy.
Yeah, I don't think you guys are going to have that hard of a time. Man can't find his driving suit. How's he going to find the race course?
They put like 13 buoys out there. It's a freaking target-rich environment.
Yeah, we're about to see
Pipes, we need that gold member buoy hunter shirt.
Man, I got you guys trying to come after me. Eddie Canfouche trying to come after me. But Eddie don't want to mess with me, man. He's got a brand new boat. He doesn't want to get that thing scratched up.
No, I feel like Eddie might just hang on the outside and go try and drive around us. He'll drive around us. I don't know about the 9.
He can try.
Yeah, he can
try. Until he starts hitting those white buoys with his right spots in.
Out of bounds buoys.
On the
hey man,
of the year.
I can that lane is either 8 foot wide or it's 120 foot wide. It don't matter to me.
We'll have Kreitzer too, and Kreitzer's fast. He's been competitive all year.
Yeah.
Wilson.
Actually, you can ask Dan Canfouche. I drove Bobby and Chris Wilson's 1 liter mod at Rocky Fork one time. I nailed the start, and way back in my mirror and the outside, I seen Dan coming up. You know, Dan was the fastest thing driving Scheckler's boat. Well, that was the start. Come around the next lap, he was rubbing the out of bounds marker. Yeah, I got called for that. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, it's a race course. How are you going to say they call me for pushing out? It's a race course. If you ever watch NASCAR, they go high, then they go low. They go high, then they go low. Like, come on. That's what I was doing. Like,
how many boat lengths you have when you were doing this?
What's that?
How many boat lengths?
There weren't boat lengths because they were fucking next to each other.
What do you mean you're not running this line?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how Dan felt about that. I think he was kind of laughing about it. He did end up passing me, but I was making him work for it. What was it going to be like? Oh, go ahead, Dan. No,
he probably dove to your inside, and then you're like, "Hey, where'd he go?"
Oh,
So what
man.
other classes they gonna have out there? Or skiff side? Jimmy Stewart might know. Are you guys traveling out to Caesars Creek? I know the points battle is coming down to the wire, so
I know.
figured you guys will.
Points battle. They better watch out. Max isn't sneaking up on them.
I think Jimmy's taking care of enough Max's engines. He ain't in the points battle.
Yeah, no, I would
He gonna kick
imagine.
me.
I don't know if there'll be 1 liters, but I would imagine Timmy and Jim would have theirs down there,
I think so.
and then Melowick, and I don't know. I don't think Ritz will be there. By the way, I did his radios this weekend for those 2 heats. I had to listen to that 1 liter engine from the start of the race when he left the dock until he got back.
Was his mic open?
Just
The
wide
whole
open.
time, both heats, and he couldn't hear
That-
me.
That's
There's
what,
only one
that's why
way.
when I drive a wide boat, I never get it up on the pipe because I can't stand that sound.
Oh my god! Dude, I honestly think it might have been louder through the radio than it would have been for him in the cockpit.
Shoo, I bet.
Actually,
Well,
Brandon drove a
amplification.
1 liter mod at Hampton before and went boom, literally.
Yeah.
And leaving
Yeah, I
the
blew
dock,
it
the
up.
thing exploded.
Yep. Man, I'll tell you what. I think I got on the course once, and all my times of trying to drive that Y80, I flipped it. So me and Y boats. I tried to tell Chris and Lake Pack on. I said, "Me and these things don't go long, man. I really do not need to drive it." He's like, "Come on, you got it." I'm like, "Nah, it's something about me." And obviously it was because John got right up on plane. So it's definitely me. If I can't stomp on the loud pedal when I leave the pits, I don't want to drive it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I don't know.
What the couple 350s if I had to assume.
Yeah, I know. Like I think like Becky and them would be there.
Becky, Heather Heather Johnson and
They are
Kyle
going
Johnson
Kyle
should be
Johnson.
there, I believe.
Oh, cool.
Alex will be there. Alex Manga, I would imagine, right? Maybe we'll see some national mods too, GNHs. I don't know what the situation is.
Dylan Goodell should be there.
Yeah,
probably
Dylan
Cassie
Goodell.
will be there.
Yeah.
So it'd be. I mean, it's not going to be a big race by any means, but it should be a fun one. There should be some good competition in the classes that are there.
It's a fun course.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah,
course.
it's awesome. Y'all do any pit party or anything out there?
I think we did a
Moonshine?
potluck last year. I think
Yeah.
which
There
I
you go.
imagine we'd do again this year.
It's a
Potluck,
Chrysler race, so you just got to stay
moonshine.
away from Chrysler the whole time.
He
At
hasn't
the
been
pit
doing
party.
His,
Yeah, I'm
his
sure.
drinks lately.
Huh?
He hasn't been doing his drinks lately.
No,
That's
it's
good.
it's
That's
Monica
good.
Becky. You got to watch.
Oh,
out for,
yeah.
man, dude.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
like moonshine.
You don't want your mom crawling into a hotel room
Oh my God.
riding the luggage cart.
That's awesome, dude. It's ridiculous.
I plead the fifth.
That was their one time this decade.
That was wild.
Jimmy Stewart said there's no skiffs going, unfortunately. He's got to go and detune the 45 because he's passing him and the JS7 on the outside and winning by half a straightaway. It just can't happen.
That's
Yeah.
funny. I thought Clyde Birdsall and the 991 were coming up. Oh,
Come on, man. You know
Oh.
it's Lakeland. You did. Them Florida boys don't come out of Lakeland? Don't come out of Florida?
I was talking to Clyde the other day. I'm like, dude, come on, man. This is the same shit every year. You say every year.
Every time.
I
gonna be
didn't get my
out Lakeland.
carburetor back. It's like, what?
See what we mean?
Like, when's the
Go
last?
EFI.
Oh.
Yep.
One thing from Hampton this week, Pack won the sportsmanship award, which I think was a kind of an obvious one, but worth noting because Pack's always been that kind of guy. And Billy got up and gave a nice speech. I mean, how many people just lend you your boat to go run?
Right.
Yeah.
To keep in the high points battle. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's a special boat to Martha and Tom.
Yep.
Being it's one of the last ones that Jimmy built,
Yep.
Bertula. So to let Billy run that one being special, that's definitely takes a lot of trust and confidence in him. So pretty cool. Keep that points battle alive all the way to Lakeland.
That's cool. So we got Lakeland and Caesars Creek and
anybody
Mason.
want to say Kyle Bipes is breaking news?
Breaking news: he's stepping down.
Yeah.
Stepping down.
Stepping down. He says the Flyboy sold, so maybe he bought it.
The Flyboy. Huh. That's interesting. It's either going out west or HRL, one of the two.
Or Kyle Bipes.
Or Kyle Bites.
Oh, that's good. That the boat's
Kyle
fast.
Pikes Terrell.
Been up for sale for a while, so good for them to sell it.
Yeah,
Get some new life out of it.
Sucks to see Gary go. Gary is a fun guy to.
Great guy.
Great
Gary
dude.
was a class act, so
Yeah.
it's.
But when people are done with it, they're done with it. You can't fault them.
Yeah,
sure.
you know, you can try to convince them to stay, but if they truly want to go, and
Hop and Madison last year still, dude. Like, I mean, we watched 15.
That scared me.
We watched like 15 of those in Sorel, but none of them were what Gary did in Madison.
No.
It was crazy.
No, he was like literally flying through the air, like flyboy.
Yeah,
like
flyboy.
He definitely landed it too.
Yeah, you could tell
he put his landing gear down, put his landing gear down, flaps down, brought that thing right down.
Did he
nice and smooth?
What's that?
No,
he didn't.
No, he doesn't.
No,
only the Wilsons are
only
crazy
the Wilsons
enough to
do
use
that.
But hey, if it works for them, that's great for them. It's cool to have something different, but it ain't for me.
I 100% would put on with that. 100. Austin would too. We already had to. We already had to bring the steering wheel closer to him. He'd be. The problem with it now, it worked great for him, and now my elbows rest directly on the seat, so it's just.
Oh jeez.
It's beautiful. My elbows feel fine.
Yes, man.
Sorry, Bob. You were saying what races we got to round out the season?
So we got Caesars Creek, we got Manson, and Lakeland. 3 more. Did we ever get a novice J class winner from HRL? Because I know they had one more race after Bahornwa.
Yeah, that race won. I know Thuret's kid flipped. A couple of others flipped. I never saw.
I apologize. I'm going to butcher this. Mederic Guyet.
Oh, wow. Nice. Wow.
479. Awesome. Wow, he put up a ton of points in that last race. They must have had double points or something going on. He had 175.
Oh, wow. That had to be a perfect weekend.
Yeah, next closest was like 119. He ended up winning by 74 points.
Check that out. Sydney was second. That's Jimbo's kid. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Oliver Messinov finished in third.
Sweet.
Nice.
So I'm
I'm
assuming
names eventually, guys. I'm sorry.
I'm assuming Mark Thuret's son is 14 now. So I wonder if he's
that
going.
Boy looks about 18. You ain't seen him. He's about your height.
Yeah,
he's about 18.
Yeah, so I wonder if they're going to have a 2.5 stock for him next year.
No, maybe.
Bring back the old S444.
Yeah. Oh man, the stories he was telling about you and Bahornwa. He's like, yeah, Bobby, I come down there, I've been doing good. My first year in CBF, I come down there to Wildwood, and Bobby comes up, he says, F you, lane 1's mine. He's like, so I went out there in the final, I took lane 1, and I said, it's mine now. I was like, I can remember this Mark. That Mark was feisty back then, I tell you.
Yeah, I think we ended up outside the bar there that night, about to go at it.
Yeah. It's amazing how it went from that to pretty damn good friends.
Yeah.
I still remember your guys' Heat and Valleyfield in 2.5 the one year.
Yeah.
Probably, we've rarely seen two boats glued together that tight for 5 laps.
Yeah.
Valleyfield especially.
Bobby's trying to remember. That was too long ago for him. He's
way too long ago.
What are you talking about?
Dude, these days,
you broke down right after the finish line. Like you must have the oil pressure must have been at 0. Like
no, he probably blew it up, which meant he hit the switch.
No, that I think that might have been the heat. The carburetor was falling off.
Hey, that's the fastest we've gone all year.
Exactly. There's the secret to it.
New tactic.
Yep. There was people that used to do that as a tactic back in the day.
Oh yeah.
leave a little
Yeah.
loose, get some
Well,
air in there.
You dangle the gasket down in the intake too.
Yeah, not the dangler wrangler,
you don't
but
do that.
Dangler.
but having a little air leak, definitely.
Hey, we found those 3 carb bullets. They came out the drain plugs this weekend.
Yeah, I tell you what, the boat's like self-cleaning.
Dude, it's
Eventually
so
it'll come
good.
out the
We
hole.
found three bolts, like 6 washers. We got one of our sockets back,
Header bolts.
header bolts.
Jesus.
It's all right in the rudder compartment. It's
Oh, yeah.
beautiful.
Richard must have been flying driving that thing down to Hampton. He's like, I'm gonna get these bolts to the back of this thing.
Yeah, if you ever need a spare part, just come take the rudder hatch off our boat. You can probably find what you're looking for.
Oh man, that makes me think. Let me see if I can find this picture while we're still talking.
I'm scared.
No, it's about leaving stuff in a boat. Go ahead,
Oh.
y'all keep the conversation going.
Is it the rag?
It was in our GP. Jane
okay.
Gayla both sent it
Woody.
to me a
Oh,
long
funny
time ago.
story. Woody in the stock final did the same thing that we did in Cambridge last year. They left the shower cap on their carburetor.
Oh,
We told him, we're
Wow.
like, dude, lesson learned, but my dad's got a burnt up rag framed on his nightstand.
That's it. You got to. Everybody's got to do it once. So look on it. So he sends me this picture of my old GP,
yep.
all torn apart, and then he goes, "Were you missing this?" I was like, "Man, that's my favorite wrench."
That's hilarious.
I got a
And
feeling if the decks off all the boats, you'd find some pretty interesting shit, man.
I know there's an 18-inch scale in Derek Smith's old boat that I forget who has it. The H4 has it now because ever since I worked on that boat, it was gone. So it's in there somewhere.
Oh, that's great. Where is that boat?
That should be a tab. If anybody finds anything funny in your boat, like going through deck hatches, tearing decks up, send it to Chasin Tails so we can share it.
Definitely. And if you have crew shirts or t-shirts you want us to wear on the podcast, send them because we're running out. Kyle Bipes is a little slow in production here. I see he had a truckload of shirts for Mike Grindell's Fastest Lap Award the other day, so he's a little slow on our production. Sends me this picture and he goes, "This is Mike Grindell's Fastest Lap t-shirts."
Oh, that's great.
So what we got in closing?
Well,
Obviously,
I think that was a good conversation with Kip about he'd like to see new engines come in and get these old dinosaurs out. So, you know, it's nice to know that someone that is involved with rule changes and it was like being on the tech committee and all that also shares our same concern that we have. So that's pretty cool. So we just have to take it from here and run with it and see what, because we have all the data. You got all the races from this summer, side-by-side heats, Fords, Hondas. Not too many Ford and 4 side-by-sides, though.
yeah, not so many.
You don't get
It's hard
that.
to make them
Yeah, you don't really get any Ford side-by-side, deck-to-deck racing
unless they're elite Fords against elite Fords.
Yeah, and so that's pretty cool. You know, Kip didn't touch the subject. He used to drive Unlimiteds. I think he was on the Gold Cup too.
He just threw it in there. What race he didn't like? I kind of forgot that he won the Gold Cup, and
Where's the race at?
forgot to touch on that.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I think.
Yeah, they tried it one year. I think the promoter, whoever it was, put it on and then stole a bunch of money and never went back. But
Well,
that
it's
was
a beautiful area.
I would have to imagine the wind in Idaho, being that it's all flat, would be.
Actually, it's very hilly there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of mountains.
Wasn't good at geography.
Yeah, Carson's uncle lives out there.
Okay.
It's like he's always sending pictures, and it's super nice.
Very cool. But yeah,
But yeah, I think.
I
Go ahead,
appreciate
Kyle.
talking to Kip. It's cool. It's another person that you get to learn a lot from. That's something me and Austin have been really trying to do the last couple of years. Not really picking up on the carburetor shit too well, but I'm learning some stuff at other places.
No,
So,
Kip's definitely a cool dude to talk to. He's raced pretty much everything. He's been around for years. He's been involved in many different levels and inboard. So he's very level-headed, and and he knows what he's talking
He's
about.
got some
So
funny ass Facebook comments, man. Keep them up.
Yeah, he said you can rally Facebook. I think he's got the comedy side of it down.
Yeah, he comes in and mellows everything out, gets everybody laughing.
yeah.
But I was gonna ask who you think is the APBA inboard Facebook warrior. Who's the best? Who is the Facebook warrior?
It's not me. I
that-
hardly.
Hey, it ain't. I don't think it's any of us because ain't nothing we say on Facebook that we ain't gonna say to your face.
For sure.
But yeah, it was also cool to hear that they're already looking at another option for the 1.5 stock class with the Honda, or what do you say, Toyota Yaris motor.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I think that's another thing that people need to understand when you go to the Honda is like half your battle is done. You're going to have the gearbox because any new age motor, you're going to have to go to the gearbox because of the way the oil pans and the blocks are built. Can't get the depth out of an oil pan without major work to a belly pan. So once you have that, now it's not going to be that hard to change motors. You're not worrying about like, oh, well, if we go to this motor, I'm going to need a new carburetor. Most of the ECUs are going to be interchangeable. Obviously, if we go to the next motor is a direct injection motor, then an ECU has to be changed. But you can swap these things out every 5 to 10 years, and it's really going to be a low cost thing, especially if we find out you can go and run them right out of a junkyard. So time will tell. But obviously, if you're still, go ahead.
This Yaris engine that they're running out west, does that require a gearbox?
No, that one must not.
Oh,
He
okay.
didn't say at least.
No. This is the first that I heard it. I didn't know anyone was running a different engine. So I'll have to message him and ask him some questions. I mean, all engines are a little different, so it might have a lower crank than these newer engines and be able to run straight to the shaft, straight to the crank.
Yeah.
But
ultimately, I think in 2.5 stock, at least, I believe the gearbox is beneficial. Some people say, oh, well, it's just another thing. But man, when you got $50 set of gears and you have one propeller and you can make that propeller work on any course, that's way better than competing with someone that has 20, 25 props in their arsenal. Like that, you can't, especially nowadays, the props are $2,000. It's all about coming back to limiting cost. And limiting the cost you're able to limit, and these are them.
Burnett just said no, it does not. So it does not take a gearbox.
Okay. So there must be still some engines that have that lower crank.
It's cool that they're trying to bring a new engine into that class because it definitely needs it. I mean, I know they have the other engine right now, but never hurts to keep.
I feel like that 1.9, obviously we helped get it in there, but I feel like timing just didn't work out. The motor wasn't running perfect like it is now out west with most of these boats now to catch all the people that were selling them. Because, I mean, there was 900 some of them out there when everyone's switching to the Gen 3 and SCCA, but just timing didn't work out and people actually just threw them away. Somebody was asking on an SCCA forum, like, do you have any specs to rebuild these engines? And so I commented, the guy that put them together originally, and then someone was like, wow, the joke we have that the Gen 2 engines are as good as boat anchors is pretty accurate now. I was like, oh man.
That's funny. So Burnett just said they do have to modify the belly pan. He said pan, so it's either belly pan or oil pan, one of the two.
Probably oil pan.
And then Grandel said he didn't see his new shirts. So,
the shipping must be slow. Must have found a bad courier.
So we have
So I think if you're still on this episode and you're a 2.5 stock owner, drop us a message with your info. We got some info to send out on the Honda, some details we're trying to iron out this week, but probably by Friday we're going to send out some more info, try to clear up the lines, and then I'd say probably in 2 weeks we could have a Honda Ford 2.5 stock group chat and get anybody and everybody you want to come on and yell at us, tell us we're crazy, or you have questions. We're open. This is going to be a live deal, live Q&A, the best way to do it. So drop us a line. Any closing thoughts? Again,
that's it. I'll
Go
talk to y'all.
fast, turn left.
Yeah, talk to y'all after next week. Everybody going down, travel safe, and keep boat facing the right way, I guess.
Yeah,
definitely. And next week we have the one, the only River City Printing's own Forrest Krim. No, I'm just kidding. He's the one doing the work in the shop. So we'll have Kyle Bipes on to tell us what this new news is from the
So
Madison Regatta.
Dennis Wright said he'll be up for it. Eric Lacoste said he'll be there. I'm sure Burnett will be there because, he always chimes in and gets on. So, and then I'm sure we'll find other 2.5 stock guys who want to come on and get in here. So,
Yep.
but
Definitely.
just shoot us that you're interested. We'll send you a link, and we'll only have a couple guys in here at once because you get too many boxes up on the screen. It just gets chaotic. People talking over each other. And did my phone just go to?
Nobody
Don't
cares.
tell anybody.
I touched my screen and it went to someone else's live, and I just see someone's face. I'm like, what is going on?
That's Chasin Tails.
But so it'll be cool. I think it'll be constructive, and it'll be a good step in the right direction to talk about some problems that other people might see, and try to hash things out and try to see where we can get this going in the future, near future,
Yep.
hopefully, because we can't find any heads or crankshaft or camshafts.
Camshafts.
So
Yep.
we're kind of screwed
Gotta
for
get
next year,
moving.
boys.
Yep. So, if y'all ain't got nothing else to add,
I do have something to add.
Jesus.
I do have something to add.
up. What?
Kyle and Austin, good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Oh boy. I swear, if I had any GoPros left, I didn't lose them all this season. We'd have one on every boat, but I've
Oh,
lost
don't worry.
almost every one of
I'll
them.
stick one of ours on the calendar facing backwards so everybody can say hi.
There we go.
That's
we
all
could
right.
probably
That's all right.
smile.
We don't need a GoPro. I'm not going to say it, but I told Brandon I'm going to put Chasin Tails on the map this weekend during the heat.
I
Yep,
don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess I'll just see it out the window.
I'm not even bringing a clock. The only thing Austin's doing on the radio is just telling me where Bob is.
he's gonna have his trail cam up because he's buoy hunting.
You're gonna see my deer cam mounted on a buoy.
You're gonna go to check it and somebody done put a buoy in your deer stand. Oh
man.
my! So it should be fun. Little sibling rivalry. We'll be sure to talk about it next Tuesday. But make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share everything we do because we're bringing you the best info on hydroplane racing. See you next episode.
Take care.
That means I'll be doing more racing than Bipes does working.
Always and forever.
Have a good one.
We're done.
Oh,
We're
fuck.
done here.
I
We're
just
done
hit
here.
stop.
It still says record.
I wasn't